Yo, this is the first ever St. Louis Fan Hawks podcast. Welcome to the show. We're real excited, just like the rest of St. Louis when it comes to the Battlehawks. We finally got ourselves a team again. You know, when Stan Kroenke decided to rip our Rams away from St. Louis out of our cold dead hands, talking about we're not a football town. Well, we've got an answer for you there, Mr. Kroenke, sitting up in L.A. with your billion-dollar stadium. We don't need none of that, okay? We've got the Dome. We've got our Battlehawks. And we're going to show you guys exactly what the hell is up. We've got my buddies with me here. Hi, Amit.
What's up, guys?
Shubs.
What's up?
Chase.
What's going on?
Yo, and we are a group of friends that love talking about sports, and we love drinking beer. And we thought we'd extend that to you guys, you know? We'll talk about some sports. We'll have some Bud Selects specifically because, you know, that's the best beer out there. And we'll talk about some sports. And as a group of guys do, whenever we are talking about sports and having some beers, there may be some occasional cussing, some explicit language. So we want to put a little warning out there about that. Now that we got that taken care of, just like we should do before all good things, we're going to do a little cheers.
Dilly dilly.
Dilly dilly.
Yeah, that was weird.
We'll figure that out.
All right, so let's jump
You'll
right
have
into
that on
it.
these big jobs.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Let's jump right into it. We've got, we just had, everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about it already. We played the Dallas Renegades. We came away with a really great victory of 15-9. That score is a little low. However, I think it was a really great game. They had Jordan Teamu, 20 for 27, 207 yards. He also had 82 yards rushing on 7 attempts. So having that quarterback with those wheels did very well for us.
You just gotta love to see a QB do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that big
It's just-
33-yard scamper.
I couldn't help myself. I love QB running.
That was one of the hype plays of the game.
No,
when
it's
he
good.
took off.
I like the diversity for sure.
And then the touchdown he threw right after that.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a rushing attack with Matt Jones and Keith Ford. Matt Jones had about 85 rush yards on 21 attempts. Keith Ford had himself a nice rushing touchdown up the sideline. It was pretty fun to see. And then we've got our boy Will Hill with the interception to secure the first ever official Battlehawks victory.
Let's go. Let's go.
1-0, baby.
Yes, sir. On the Renegades side, you know, one thing I do want to say is, you know, it was a very good first game. Dallas did have their backup quarterback playing.
Philip Nelson.
Yeah, Philip Nelson. He was 33 for 42, 209 yards. And the biggest key stat I can pull away from the game is that the Renegades were 1-10 on third down. So our defense really stepped up on third down. Got themselves off the field, got the Renegades offense off the field, got our boys out there so we could continue to run it off the throat. What did you guys see that you guys enjoyed?
I think our defensive performance was incredible. We always stopped them. Like, Philip Nelson could not throw deep, and we were able to just hold him in the short game.
Yeah, the defense was pretty stout. It was like a bend but don't break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just liked how all the players really
I definitely
adapted to
agree.
the league. It's great. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they scored no touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yep. Chase?
That is true. No, I definitely agree with the strong defensive game. The offense looked a little bit disorganized at times, but to see the defense pull through and give the offense a chance to do its job, I think that was important.
Yep, and then, you know, it really does seem like we're a run-first offense. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit surprised by that. Head coach of the Battlehawks, Jonathan Hayes, he was a tight end in the NFL. He started off as a tight end for my beloved favorite Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep, that's
yes,
right.
sir.
And he played for them for like 9 years or so. So being a tight end, you know, I figured it would be more of a passing game. But if you really think about it, you know, back when he came out, tight ends were really big-ass blockers.
Yep.
So, you know, it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense that he's putting a little run-first policy out there. And you know what? It's working.
Yeah.
You know, we had, about 180-something yards of passing, 190-something of rushing. So, altogether, you know, once you put it all together, you know, you'd be like, oh, this is not big, gaudy numbers in the passing like
Yeah.
everybody likes to see. But when you throw in that rushing and almost 200 yards of rushing, that turns into a
Yeah.
pretty potent offense.
Yeah, and that includes our quarterback. Our quarterback's also part of our rushing attack, which is another element of the offense that we'll see.
Exactly.
Definitely.
One of the things that I didn't like seeing out there, we were shooting ourselves in the foot
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Constantly.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was,
way too many penalties, way too many.
right. I mean, this is just like every other play. We'd get a big play and then all of a sudden false start. We get a big play, holding. We really do need to clean it up. But that's another good thing is if cleaning it up and things like that. I mean, that's fundamentals. That should be easy to do. And once we do that, I think this offense could really, really be a threat.
Yeah, I think everyone out there agrees that the team needs to tighten up a little bit,
Right.
figure out what they're doing, get their flow going.
Mhm. And then if you combine that with the clock, the way the XFL is, it's going to be a lot faster. So
Yeah.
having a run-first offense is a little bit different in the sense that you can kill that clock a lot faster and give opponents a lot less time to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that means, we do have to jump out to an early lead, and the defense has to do its job. But, I mean, if we can do it, we can do it. Let's talk about Marquette.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Marquette is a boss out there, and, as I am a fan of my glorified world's best team, Kansas City Chiefs ever, right?
They are there.
No bias.
Right now.
Marquette played for the Raiders,
Yep.
and he played for the Broncos. So I kind of came into it.
Yeah, that's kind of a double whammy, isn't it?
A
Yeah.
little bit skewed.
A
when I
little
came into
hesitant.
that.
yeah.
So, but it was really cool to see him out there. He was electrifying in the NFL. He's the one that was doing the dances and stuff like that. Seems to be taking to the Battlehawks well. I've seen him on social media. He's interacting with the fans and everything like that. So all of that's great. Of course, I do want to say real quick that there was this one little game at Arrowhead Stadium back in 2013 where I attended, and it was the game where we broke the noise record the first time that we took it from Seattle. And there was a certain little play in that game, and Chiefs fans like to call it 4th and 48 or 3rd and 48, right? It's a game where, all props to Marquette. He's an excellent punter, excellent player, funny as hell, all of that. But he was part of that play, so I do have to mention it. That Chiefs series was awesome, and Marquette didn't punt it past the first 9-yard line, and we were all excited. So hopefully he doesn't listen to this later and get mad. But it was a fun time. It was a fun time. It was my first time experiencing Marquette King in the NFL. And now I'm excited to see him in the XFL being just as electric as he was in the NFL.
It's
awesome.
great to see NFL players come into this new league and really excelling.
Right, and it gives him another chance, too, because
Yeah.
the NFL is ruthless,
Yeah.
Now, what have you done for me now? What stats have you produced?
Yep.
It's real easy to get left by the wayside, to be forgotten about, even though you have talent. Everyone goes through ruts.
Exactly.
So XFL provides a wonderful opportunity for some of the players that kind of get left by the wayside or kind of fall out of things or aren't as hype or isn't the next best player or something like that. And especially for college students as well. College students get an opportunity to continue playing the sports that they love.
It definitely really expands the field.
Exactly. But yeah, no, that's a good transition there. Let's talk about Pat McAfee on the broadcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am a huge Pat McAfee fan, not because he was a punter with the Indianapolis Colts when he was playing, but because of his podcast, The Pat McAfee Show 2.0. I love watching his show. His show really inspired me to get this going together with us.
Yeah, it's a great
It
podcast.
is really good.
With
It is a good podcast.
good guy, hanging out with a bunch of his friends, talking about the things that they love, having a good time. Pretty much sounds like everything we like doing, right?
Yeah.
So, him on the sideline there was hilarious. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say ESPN broadcast over the years, especially Monday Night Football, has gotten really boring.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not fun to watch. You'd rather, have the game going on and music going on in the background or something else. It was real dry.
Yeah, usually mute it. Yeah.
Exactly. But having Pat McAfee down there was really exciting because he quite simply loves the game. He loves what he does, and he brings that energy. He's not worried about what other people think about him, which is amazing, which allows him to have a certain kind of freedom that other people don't. But specifically, when Marquette King bombed that punt, launched it all the way down that field and downed it at the 1 yard line.
Amazing punt.
And I don't remember which player it was, but he went and slid right in the ball. One of the Battlehawks
Another
players.
prime example of shooting in the foot. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. He went and slid right into the ball and knocked it out of the back of the end zone, and it ended up being a touchback. And Pat McAfee absolutely lost it.
He became electric.
It was hilarious. It was terrible, but hilarious.
It was hilarious because he's like, what?
Don't touch the ball.
And then he just totally gave up. He was like, oh no.
Yeah, he was fanboying over
Yeah,
Marquette. So
he was representing every Battlehawks fan at that point. I mean,
Troy Aikman was on the sideline as well. It was cool to see Hall of Fame quarterback at the game on the field supporting the XFL. Just really cool to see that. There was some story out there that like something was happening on the sideline, and Pat McAfee got out of the way and exposed Troy Aikman. So now everyone thinks Pat McAfee is going to be trying to kill Troy Aikman. I don't know.
You gotta love a conspiracy stories.
But yeah, no. Let's go into some of the rules. XFL brought a lot of interesting rules out there. Some of which I like, some of which are just like whatever, some of which that I really do want to talk about. One of the most common ones that we all know about, 1 foot in bounds. We're used to that from college.
Like college,
So that was a little interesting.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about that rule, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like in general, college and the XFL. I mean, on one hand, it's like a part of your body is in bounds, just like a part of your body has to be behind the line of scrimmage before you throw the ball. Also, you just have to get the ball to cross the plane to call it a touchdown. So I can see why having 1 foot in bounds, call it a completed catch. However, I also believe that, you should cross the line with your whole body for it to be a touchdown.
And not just the ball.
I also think, having a toe behind the line of scrimmage and throwing the ball forward is kind of weird. So I also think you should have 2 feet in bounds in order to call it a catch, because if your whole body can be out of bounds, but if your toes are in bounds, then you're still technically in bounds. But if one of those slides out, I don't think that's going to be a rule that's going to be adopted by the NFL.
Yeah, definitely not.
And definitely because this ends up being inches and centimeters, what you're talking about, but that really decides certain games. And for the NFL just to accept a huge rule like that.
That also factors into what we're talking about, when that factors down to the play clock and the style of the XFL. It boils down into, how fast the game is paced. You keep the game moving forward.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's just like you said, it is the main point of the XFL. They want to speed it up. They want less time on commercials, less time on the sidelines, go. One of the things they did to speed up the game is in the NFL, usually the offensive coordinator, the head coach, has a direct line to the quarterback's helmet, and the quarterback sends out those plays to the rest of the players. But in the XFL, I think the quarterback, the wide receivers, and the running back.
I think they said it was like 6 people in total.
Right, yeah. And I'm not sure how many of the offensive linemen have it, if they do or not.
Maybe the center might, but I think I'm not sure about the other people. Yeah.
But yeah, no, they all get the play directly. The quarterback reiterates it to make sure everyone has it, and then they just go, right? The hurry up offense might be like a standard thing in the XFL, which is really cool to see, and it kind of changes the game because maybe you need more depth because the players aren't getting as much of a break, so you may need to rotate in and out more. A player goes down 40, 50 yards, he might be winded, there's no break for him to catch his breath, so you might have to immediately switch someone out.
Yeah, some of the players are saying it after the game. They're like, it's hard to catch breath
exactly
in between plays.
Yeah, you got to understand, these games, I mean, just hitting everyone, just think about how much power and how much aggression is in the offensive and defensive line alone, regardless of the rest of the plays. Those 300-pound, 6'7", 6'9" guys are hitting each other play after play in order to make sure everybody else can do what they need to do.
Yeah, and I think everyone out there can agree that even in the NFL, football is no easy game. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how some of the dynamics that we're used to differ in the XFL. The kickoff rule is very interesting.
I love it.
I like it a lot. And I think it could be one of the things that could make it to the NFL as well. Was it on the opponent's?
So what's the kickoff rule exactly? I'm not too familiar with this.
So basically, none of the players can move until the receiver catches the ball.
Caught the ball, yep.
I see.
And they're lined up on the receiving team's what?
I think 35.
35?
Really?
So they're on the receiving team's 35.
They're
so
already pretty close.
They're pretty close, but they can't move until the receiver catches the ball.
And is there a certain yard line that they have to kick it past?
There's some rules about that. Like I think touchbacks are 35 yard line.
Touchbacks go to the 35 yard line.
Yeah, instead of the 25.
So what I'm saying is, like, couldn't the kicker kick it to the 30 and then only be 5 yards out?
No. It wouldn't work like that on kickoffs. On kickoffs, whenever you kick it, the receiver has to catch it. If the receiver touches it and drops, or if it drops and the kicking team picks it up, it's a recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, you're thinking of punting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's some punting rules on there as well. But on the kickoff, I really like that, and I think it would be absolutely electric in the NFL as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not getting as much of that running contact, so injuries will be down. It'll be a lot more safe. I think it can help with blocking the back penalties as well. That would be a good way. Also, I mean, could you imagine like Tyreek Hill or some of the faster guys in the league in the NFL having that opportunity to scan where each guy is, immediately scan right off the snap where the big guys are pushing the defending team so that you can find the holes and run through.
Absolutely.
I mean, and on top of that, the biggest thing is, NFL is all about safety, right?
Yeah.
So this rule does make things safer.
It does.
And I think it would be a really good one to see.
It would definitely
I think it would definitely be a good change of pace.
Yeah. I think it would add a lot of strategy to kickoffs because everybody in the NFL just tries to do a touchback now.
Exactly. Another thing, the double forward passes. I didn't see one.
I don't think we had one in our game.
I don't think there was a single one.
But that rule is very interesting. Basically, what that rule is you can have 2 forward passes, but the first one has to be behind the line of scrimmage. So that kind of balances it out. At first, I was like, what, you're going to throw 20 yards down the field? and then I'll throw it another 40 yards down the field, right? And I was like, well, that's not fair at all.
Some backyard.
Not XFL. It's going to be hot potato league.
Yeah, really.
But the fact that the first pass has to be behind the line of scrimmage, I think that can make for some really interesting trick plays, and I believe a lot of these teams will come out with them. But it was the first week, they didn't have a lot of tape. Some of the teams may not have practiced, full practice together a lot.
Yeah.
So I think they were mainly sticking to fundamentals, feeling each other out. But now that everyone's got some sort of tape, some sort of idea what everyone's going to be doing out there, I think some of these trick plays are going to start coming in. And I think that's really cool. I mean, you could see some crazy stuff. I mean, you could see like a reverse, and then you throw it back to the other side, but it can be forward. So, you can run 10 yards back to get away from some blitzing defender, chuck it 10 yards forward, but you're still behind the line of scrimmage, and then you launch it because all the defenders were chasing the guy that was 10 yards back. It could be some crazy stuff, and I'm excited to see how that works.
Yeah, imagine fake punts.
Yeah. Double forward passes on fake punts.
I'm really excited to see that.
Dude, that was really good. The biggest thing with the rules are, this isn't really a rule, but it's more of how the XFL operates, and I think is a very, very good idea, is the level of transparency that they're providing. Because, at the end of the day, the game has to be entertaining. That's the main goal of a game, is to be entertaining, and everything else will come with it, the strategy and all that builds it up. But the transparency, I think, is really cool with being able to see the coaches, hear the coaches actually making the plays and delivering out to the quarterback, and then the quarterback, delivering it to his players. The camera guy that's on the field, it's not a sky cam being controlled by someone. It's someone with a camera on the field going up to the players and looking at them and all that. This is like kind of behind the scenes access every game.
Yeah.
It's way more up close and personal, and and even from my standpoint, watching game one with people that had never really followed football before, they were way more interested in it and way more engaged than they would have ever been in the NFL, just because they get to see a level of the game that they've never seen before. And I think that's huge, and it's going to probably attract way more people to the sport. And, I mean, like they say, for the love of football, that's everything this league is about.
Yeah, honestly, like prior to a couple years ago, I wasn't the biggest football fan until Raj really got me watching the Chiefs here. But now, yeah, during the XFL, it's great. Like, obviously, like, there are a lot of people out there who can relate. Like, there's too many rules to know, and like, XFL really does a good way of explaining it.
Exactly, and like, XFL is a new league. They're growing. They're fighting for eyeballs. NFL's got a lot of eyeballs.
Yep.
But one of the things they should do is they should go for the casual fan, and the casual fan is going to be how you get growth. So it's cool to have the casual insight. It's cool to see, someone who's never watched the NFL sees a coach on the sideline saying something into
all the mic,
and they're like, "Oh, what are they saying?
Yeah.
What's going on?" Oh shit, you got a camera showing this guy exactly what's going on.
It's a really cool feature.
But the biggest thing about that transparency is the ref transparency.
Yeah.
That I did not expect that at all, and I thought that was excellent.
Yeah.
I think that is awesome. I think the NFL needs to do that last year.
That's a must for the NFL for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's been too much stuff going on in the past few years in the NFL where that's a must.
Exactly.
And it's something easy they could do too.
Exactly, and it's just like you're enforcing the rules, so there shouldn't be any shadiness going on anyway.
Exactly.
So what do you got to hide?
Like,
I understand you might have to clean up your language, things like that. Make sure it's presentable for TV. But at the same time, what's the matter with being like, oh, we came to this conclusion because we saw this. This is what we saw. This is what we're basing our thing on. There was some ideas thrown around, out in the internet world. Maybe have the refs do a press conference afterwards to explain some of the calls. But it's still after the fact. You'd be talking to a charged audience. Everyone would want to immediately be like, oh, no, you're lying. Oh, you're trying to cover your shit up or whatever. But having it live during the game, seeing exactly what's going on, the thought process, the people who are making the decisions and everything like that, I think it's perfect.
And I think it really helps take heat off the league because people usually when they get angry, they want some sort of explanation, and this is great for
right.
that.
And no review timeout was ever fun.
Exactly.
No. Ever fun.
Yeah.
But this is because you're anticipating it. You're like, oh, you're live for each decision made. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or, oh, I didn't think about that. Or, you're engaged. You're watching it and actually seeing it. And on top of that, it's another commercial that's not there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say most people watching football out there think they know better than the refs do.
Right.
And when the call doesn't go your way, especially. But there's a lot of things you need to look at.
Exactly, and it's just transparency. Yeah. That's all the fans wanted. That's why did you come to this? How did you come to this? Instead of just silence.
And hey, maybe the refs were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like they didn't say it's one thing to make a bad decision or what we think is a bad decision and then try to explain it, but it's a whole nother thing to make a decision that everybody thinks is wrong and then just not say anything about it and act like it never happened.
Well, we even had that opportunity during the game. There was a call that we actually got to see be overturned.
Yeah, the Christine Michael fumble in the second quarter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
I mean, refereeing and the refs and enforcing the rules is such a huge part of game. I mean, Super Bowls have been decided. Super Bowl matchups have been decided based on the backs of officiating.
Looking at you, Super Bowl 53.
Exactly. So, having this kind of transparency, I think, is going to be really good, and on top of that, really entertaining. And that's what the XFL really needs to do in order to take off and in order to compete with the NFL is entertain. So, I think that's really good. Let's talk about the fans a little bit, though. This is the Fanhawks podcast, right?
It's all about fans,
don't have to talk about just the Battlehawks. We want to talk about the fans, too. And I've recently joined up in a bunch of Battlehawks groups that have been showing up on Facebook. And, it's all kinds. It's like, the quote-unquote official. And then we've got the quote-unquote unofficial. And then we've got the tailgate group. And we've got a whole bunch of these groups out here. And it's awesome to see. Everyone's banding together. Everyone's, having a good time. Everyone's excited.
Yep.
The city really hasn't been like this since the Blues won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, definitely.
And we were there for that. Went to Ballpark Village and partying. And
Greatest
went to
day
the
of my
parade.
Yeah.
And
if you guys are listening from St. Louis, you know what you're talking
about.
But,
you know exactly what we're talking about when it comes to that kind of stuff.
City shut down.
It's great to see the city come together like
absolutely
that.
incredible.
So, we had Cardinals Cardinals have always had a winning history, so that's the one thing that we
Strong
could,
team.
it's a strong foundation right there. Blues just won their first Stanley Cup. Now we've got the Battlehawks. I mean, it is a really good time. Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, by the
Yeah.
way. For
Yes,
those
sir.
of you
They're
who
in
know.
Missouri. Yeah,
Been waiting my whole life for
Yeah,
that.
for those who didn't know.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
Everyone.
yeah. Kansas City, Mo.
Wait, it's not Kansas?
No, it's not Kansas. But yeah, no, it's just a real exciting time to be a Missouri sports fan, let alone St. Louis
Yeah.
or Kansas City or, even Columbia with Mizzou. I mean,
Yep.
just all around, it's a really good time to be a sports fan in Missouri, and it's exciting to see. One of the things I have seen in these various Facebook Battlehawks groups is a raging debate about caca. All right, all right. Now,
Oh,
after some pre-show discussions here, it seems that I'm alone in a corner who believes firmly that the caw is the law.
No, I think it sounds stupid.
I think it's very corny.
Nah, dude, you got the Battlehawks coming in. They're flying in. Gunship's hot. They're about to run down your throat. They're about to pass down your throat. They're about to stop you on defense. And what do you think everybody's saying? And they're saying, caca!
No, I mean, like, okay, look, if the whole city gets together and decides cacaw's what's up, then I'm cool with it. But if we have an option right now,
Nah, what else is it going to be?
I don't know. I'm just saying,
Exactly.
if we have
As long as it's not the Ric Flair, woo, then we're good. But
Nobody-
calls the law, and caw, it's pretty close.
Yeah,
it's
like,
up there. All right.
Nobody has come up with another good idea.
I agree with you there, but the Battlehawks such a cool logo and team that I don't think Kaká really does it justice.
Right,
No,
right.
Definitely not.
But I think Kakaw's great. I think it's simple. I think you can rally behind it. I think you can market around it. I think you can get a whole crowd. Or right now it's about like 28 to 30,000, but they need to open up that upper bowl at the
They
Dome.
do.
And if you can get like 50,000 people in there all
That'd be
saying
amazing.
Kaká, I mean, I think that would be dope. I mean, what sports team has ever had an accurate chant?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, look at the Cardinals. You think we all go out there like chirp, 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 chirp? You think when the Rams were here, you think we were going out there like, bah? But like, it doesn't matter. Battlehawks, Kaká doesn't match, but it does match, and it's natural, and it was the first thing that came up by itself, so we should do it.
True.
It's nice for people to have something to rally behind, but I don't know. It's just it's not intimidating to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
like
agree
that
with that.
doesn't
Nah,
strike
no.
fear into your opponent. Caca! Like, I don't know.
No. We strike fear into them by winning. That's all we got to do. Another thing that's been going on the internet's Viper fans.
Oh, the
It seems
Vipers.
that
Those poor souls.
Yeah.
We Battlehawks have fully declared war on any and all Vipers fans.
Yep.
And you know what? I'll be honest, I'm all about it, but I'm not quite sure why. Where did Tampa Bay come from on this rivalry?
Well, one thing.
You know
is,
what? I want to see the best Viper memes we can conjure on all the social media pages. Like
You know what?
Yeah.
I need a stash of memes
Absolutely.
for this.
You know what? Yeah, this is a good time right here. So, with us being the FanHawks podcast, we want to interact with you guys specifically. We want you guys to tweet at us. We want you guys to post. We want you guys to send us whatever on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, the St. Louis FanHawks podcast. You can search that, and you'll find us on Facebook. On Twitter and Instagram, you can find us at STL_FanHawks. Again, that's STL_FanHawks. You can tweet us. You can send us a video on Instagram, DM us on Instagram. We've got a Facebook group set up that you can join. You can post questions. You can post memes. You can post feedback, what topics that you want us to discuss, whatever. You can go ahead and hop on there. Again, that's the St. Louis FanHawks podcast on Facebook. You got at STL_FanHawks on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find our latest episodes on there. We'll put episodes anytime we get a new episode. We'll put posts on all three. We'll also be doing show clips, things like that. That way, if you don't have time to watch the whole episode, you can just hop on, watch a few of the clips, get caught up on whatever you need to get caught up on, and be good to go. then we want to grow it. We want to grow with you guys, with the Battlehawks. So as time goes on, if everything starts working, what we'll do is we'll start adding more and more and more. Eventually, we'd like to do player interviews. We'd like to get coaches. The the Battlehawk season is kind of short, so we want to keep this going after the season. So we'll try to get players, we'll try to get coaches, we'll try to set up interviews, do whatever we can. But the biggest thing that'll help us do that is going to be you guys interacting with us. We're relying on you guys in order to grow this into a big, huge thing. So, let's look ahead to the next week's game. We're playing against the Houston Roughnecks, and I'll be honest, I don't think people are talking enough about, the fact that the Roughnecks are looking pretty legit in this.
They are.
I'm 100%.
They're stacked for sure.
I 100% think that this is going to be a test. This is going to be the real test.
Yeah.
We did pretty good. It was a good trial run against the Renegades. It was a fun game. Second half, everything started getting lit up a little. But we were still playing against their backup quarterback.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. I think I heard that. That was their backup QB.
Jarvis Landry was in – Jarvis Landry.
Landry Jones.
Landry Jones.
Wow.
Landry Jones was, he had a big-ass brace on his knee, so he had something going on with his leg.
Yeah.
And because of that, they had to start their backup. So, it's going to be interesting to see playing against a team that has its starters going. One thing that is really, really going to be interesting is the fact that both Keith Ford and Matt Jones were both out of practice.
Yeah, they're
both on the injury report. They both did not practice, and that was the bulk of our yards. I mean, we had more rushing yards and passing yards last game. And we're taking both of them out. And who's the other guy? Christian Michael?
He fumbled in the second quarter.
Yep, fumbled in the second quarter. Used to be on the Seahawks. I think he backed up
this many rushing yards. Zero.
Zero.
He was backing up Marshawn in the NFL back in the day.
They wanted him to be the successor of Marshawn Lynch.
And he didn't make it there. He's on our team. We're excited. We want him to do well, but hopefully he can improve on that performance that he had last week, because this looks like he's gonna be the main guy.
And as you mentioned earlier, us being what were we saying, run first team, this will be kind of difficult with two of our guys out.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely see what happens. Let's talk about the Roughnecks a little. PJ Walker. I'm sorry, I was watching the replay of LA and the Roughnecks, and that dude looks fucking huge out there.
He's incredible.
He looks like a monster. At first I was like, who is this guy? Are they running some kind of wildcat or something?
Yeah.
No, that's the quarterback. And then he just started dropping bombs to all of his players all across the field, and I was like, okay, so they're past first team, all right. And then he starts taking off.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, we might have a little bit of an issue on our hands, because they went and hung 37 points against the Wildcats. It was 37-17 that final score, and the Roughnecks gave such a beating to the Wildcats that they fired their defensive coordinator. One game
after one
game.
First game.
One game in the
all
season.
That build up, all that
chance.
practice, and then you get up against PJ and the boys, and all of a sudden you're out of a job.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a real test. We've got the benefit of having some tape against them this week, some real game footage to game plan better. Hopefully we can. We're going into it without our two leading backs. We got a new tight end.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, it was Connor Hunt.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Connor something. I'll have to double check that. But he's looking like, they just put a video up of him picking up, I don't know how much weight it was, but he had like 4 or 5 plates on each side. He deadlifted it, and then he started walking.
Oh,
and he
walked.
walked.
Farmer's carry.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was really interesting. Let me find this guy's name.
Yeah, and I think the Roughnecks are gonna be a very intense challenge. One thing I like is that our defense in week 1, they could tackle. Like they were very disciplined in tackling. So I think we'll have that going for us
Yeah, our defense is solid.
going into that game.
Defense is solid.
Connor Davis,
Connor Davis.
not
Okay.
Connor Hunt. I think it was Cole Hunt who got hurt.
Okay, yeah. He was the one. He was
Yeah.
on a stretcher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was another penalty.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
The 15-yard unnecessary.
Unnecessary roughness.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Connor Davis, he's called up from like what's the practice squad?
The Team
of,
9.
like, Team 9.
Team
yeah.
9. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
dude, what is Team 9? Can you give us a little description?
Yeah, so it's like every team. There's no every team doesn't have its own practice squad. It's like a practice squad for the whole league, basically.
Really?
So, and it's kind of, I guess it's the idea is like when they do expansion teams, they would pull from this practice squad for that.
So that's pretty cool. He's after week 1, he's already getting his shot. Hopefully he can make the most of it. We're gonna need some receivers to step up big time here with the absence of Matt Jones and Keith Ford.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It's gonna be interesting. The Roughnecks are really gonna be a test. Hopefully we can get out to a 2-0 lead coming into our home opener.
Yeah.
That would be really exciting to have a team 2-0 coming into the Dome. The city's already electric. There's a whole bunch of bars already talking about having watch parties. There's a whole bunch of groups already talking about having tailgating sessions right outside the Dome.
If you guys are from St. Louis and have looked at ticket prices, you'll see they've gone up.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
like
nice to see, though, people are interested in this.
Exactly. There's a big petition out there with fans trying to get the Dome to open up the upper row.
Yeah.
There's
The
a huge
upper
debate
bowl.
on that, yeah.
Which, why not?
I know, yeah.
Literally, why not?
If you're selling the tickets, you got nothing to lose. And
Exactly.
that's exactly why the XFL didn't work out the first time, was just lack of interest, and it seems to be going above and beyond this time around. So it's good to see.
Exactly. And you're literally missing an opportunity if you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get that upper bowl opened up, regardless of what kind of contract or whatever. Instead of making fans pay $100 a ticket secondhand on StubHub or whatever,
Ticketmaster, yeah.
or having scalpers out there charging exorbitant prices
Yep.
to get a $24 ticket. Just open up the rest of the 30,000 seats you got that you're not using.
So much capacity.
The money's going to come straight to you guys. The fans are going to be excited. You're going to make so much money off the beer, the food, and everything like that. There's really not a reason. Unless there's some legal implications like, oh, we only leased out half of the stadium to the XFL.
You guys cannot have the
Yeah,
top, no matter what.
I don't see how that can be worked on,
Yeah.
especially when there's more money to be made all around.
Absolutely.
That's what everybody thinks about at the bottom line.
For
right?
seasons to come, I'm sure it's going to be opened up.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And how cool would that be where, you watch these games with the other XFL teams and just half of the stadium is filled up, but then teams have to come to St. Louis and you've got the entire Dome screaming,
Yeah.
"Caw!" at you.
It's not a
You
for
know?
sure thing. Yeah, it's not a for
You're
sure
going to be
thing,
like, where the
yeah.
hell are we? Let's get out of here. No, we need that 100% home
Yeah.
field advantage, and we need to be felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a bunch of stuff. We talked about the Battlehawks last game. We look forward to the next game. We talked about some of the rules. Let's talk about some Missouri sports. Let's talk about the Cardinals. What's going on with the Cardinals, Shubs?
Oh, not a whole lot, if I'm being honest. We didn't make any improvements offensively, which is really frustrating because that was our weak spot last season. Our pitching really carried us throughout the whole season, and it got us to the playoffs. And really, our offense showed up maybe like in flashes in the playoffs, and then we got to the championship series and got swept. But then we lose Ozuna, which I'm really salty about, and Chase as well.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten over that. All right, I'm probably going to cry myself to sleep tonight over that.
And then
like you said, offensive really struggled, and he was really one of the only players that was put up a decent batting average.
Absolutely. And then we trade Jose Martinez as well.
I forgot
a big
about that.
offensive punch off the bench.
I was so sad.
I wasn't super upset about that trade because we got a good pitcher in return. He's gonna be special, and if we could use him as like a piece to trade for somebody else in the future, but we subtracted offensively, and from an already mediocre offense. So.
I hear the hitting coach is getting a little heat.
Yeah, and you know where he used to coach? The Houston Astros.
Really?
They've been the news.
Yeah.
They've been the news of baseball.
Yeah, it's like everyone's trying. Everyone's pissed off that the offense has sucked, and so they're looking for scapegoats. And
yeah.
like, were you a part of the Houston Astros cheating? And he's like, dude, I was a rookie assistant for the first time. I didn't know shit about this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's been interesting to see how all that plays out. Of course, with the Chiefs, they're still partying.
Oh,
Mahomes and Kelsey.
We're in Vegas, right?
Yeah, they were last spotted in Vegas partying it up. You know, first before that, they were at the Post Malone concert.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that they have not been sober since they won the Super Bowl.
That
they
is
went into that
amazing.
locker room.
They deserve every second of that.
sure.
I know. As a lifelong Chiefs fan myself, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is everything I've been praying for since I was a little boy. You know, I wanted to run and gun quarterback. You know, he's got a little bit of wheels, but then he can launch it 60 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
All the prayers, all the tears, everything have finally paid off. And we've got a quarterback in his second year in the league, threw for 50 touchdowns. It's only two other quarterbacks, some of the greatest of all time he's ever done.
Yeah.
And then he goes and wins league MVP, and then, you know, gets one play away from the Super Bowl. It comes around the next year, you know, faces all kinds of adversity. I mean, he was expected to beat his last season's totals. He was expected through like the first 2 weeks, everyone's like, he's going to throw for 6,500 yards and he's going to get more than 50 touchdowns.
Ridiculous.
But then, you know, he messes up his ankle and then his kneecap pops out of place and he comes back and, you know, he didn't have Tyreek for the first 4 weeks and the number one receiver. You know, and he came back from all that. The team goes there, and it's a team. It's not one person. Anytime everyone tries to put everything on Mahomes' shoulders, he immediately comes around and says, it's about the team. It's about the guys that I have around me. It's about Andy Reid putting me in a position to succeed. He is a class quarterback. He is a quarterback that every franchise wishes they had.
Yep.
Essentially going to be the face of the NFL, and it's really exciting to see because I had to deal with 2 and 14. I had to deal with Tyler Palco. I had to deal with Matt Castle. I had to deal with Damon Heward. Because, I mean, you know, when I first started paying attention.
I had to deal with you bitching about all of these people.
I think we're all in the same boat here.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We've heard this for years.
Exactly. They've been around for all of it.
So we're also excited here.
that they don't have to hear me bitch about it all the time. Now they just got to hear me be like, hey, remember the Chiefs won the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
Hey,
we're glad to hear that.
I'm
We're
glad to hear
happy
that.
to hear that.
Like, yes, dude.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the Blues. Now, the Blues have had something big happen to them. The Blues have had something very unfortunate happen to them, and you don't want to see this happen to any player on any team in any sport. You don't want to see this happen to the person next door. Chase, why don't you run us through what happened?
So the other night in Anaheim, Jay Boomeister came to the bench after a shift, and he appeared to lose consciousness, and they rushed the medical staff over there, which, I mean, huge shout out to them. They responded in seconds, and they were there to help him out. He ended up needing to be defibbed, and he was responsive and coherent on his way to the hospital, and he spent 2 days in the hospital down there in California, and he had essentially a pacemaker put in. So he's healthy and well, but there is some speculation as to, you know, that could effectively end his hockey career. I mean, there's nothing disbarring him from playing. There's nobody saying, hey, you can't play. There's no rules in place against that. But as far as a health standpoint, that can be detrimental to somebody's health.
And it all still depends on how he recovers too, because he's still in recovery. The news came out today actually that, you know, his procedure went well. He's doing good. You know, he's alert. Even after they revived him, because, I mean, they had to use the defib on him, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's intense. And it was Dad's trip, too. So, like, his father's there.
Yeah.
Which, you know, everyone wants to say, oh, his father had to witness him right in front of him and all of that.
Oh, there was no better place for his father to be.
Exactly.
You know, I wouldn't want to be thousands of miles away from my son if that were to happen. But it's been, and you know, it's very tragic that it's happened. But at the same time, it's brought the hockey community together from all over.
I mean, yeah,
he's had tremendous amounts of support. They have. I
mean, you saw pictures.
They have
get
well. Yeah, they have get well cards
other.
coming from Anaheim, from Vegas, from everywhere. And, you know, everybody's kind of rallied behind them.
They put out an address for everyone to send those that mail to, which is really cool. And, you know, seeing like the opponents putting up a get well Boomeister on their jumbotrons and everything like that. that's one of the silver linings that comes out of it. It really brings everyone together. But it's a damn shame that something like that had to happen. I mean, this is a player for the Blues that played over 700 consecutive games for the Blues.
I don't know if it's for the Blues, but yeah, he does have the longest consecutive gameplay, I believe, for a defenseman in the NHL.
In the NHL and on the Blues too.
You know,
I mean, he's up there with Plager, he's up there with Petrangelo, and he's up there with a lot of the other guys who have played there for a very long time. And
yeah, he's a triple gold winner. He's got a World Championship gold medal, Olympics gold medal. He's got a Stanley Cup under his belt. I mean, he's a very
one of the things
he's a very well.
One of the things you've been hearing out there a lot is how how much of an icon he is. Like, he's quiet, but whenever he says something, the entire locker room listens. He's been known as the Iron Man of that locker room because of those 700 consecutive. He's played in over 1,300 games overall, is a stat that I heard on the local radio station. So just
It's close.
Like that,
he's definitely a veteran. He was picked up. He was drafted 3rd overall by Florida in 2002. And he's definitely a veteran, and he's brought a lot to the game. And if he doesn't continue to play, which I would be surprised if he did continue, but I would like to see him somewhere on the staff of the Blues for sure. I mean, he's brought a lot to this team.
I mean, above all that, health is most important. Making sure that you're there for your family and friends and everything like that. That takes precedence over the sport. But it'll be a shame if he can't play again, because he was fun to watch while he was on that ice. And then all of us were reveling in the Stanley Cup, and it was a very exciting time. We were downtown, we were hanging out with the people, and it was just so great. It kind of made some of the bad stuff in the world kind of go to the back, kind of fall back. It was just exciting to be happy and to see this happen not even a year after on a team that could essentially repeat, But
yeah, we're doing really well this year.
We all here feel for him. We hope he gets better. Hopefully
definitely.
he can play, but his health is most important. Making sure that he's there for himself, his family, and everybody else.
Yeah, prayers go out to the family.
Yeah, so they're definitely in our thoughts and our prayers.
And once again, like I said, it's huge that the medical staff. All of the trainers, how fast they responded. The Blues players helping out. I mean, they ripped the freaking bench out of the concrete and threw it aside to get the medical staff to them.
And not just the medical staff. Shout out to all the trainers in all sports for any team. They bust their ass every day to make sure that these players are in game shape, to make sure that these players are eating what they need to, are resting how they need to, are recovering the way they need to, and all we see is them on the sidelines with water bottles and whatever. But there's a lot more that goes into that, and it's
most definitely.
It's
a very
And the
behind the scenes they're putting the work in.
Exactly. So shout out to them. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I know it's easy to be forgotten, but we here at the Fanhawks podcast appreciate you for everything that you do.
Absolutely.
And so once again,
I mean, aside from that, on the Blues, I mean, we do have a chance to repeat for sure. We're still a championship caliber team. I firmly believe that, but things have kind of fallen off since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And I mean, past 5 games, I mean, I think we're 1-4 in the past 5 games. And I think a lot of that boils down to, just from what I'm seeing, is turning over the puck too much. I mean, you gotta tighten up the fundamentals.
I mean, last year around January we were bottom of the league, and then we came back and won. Sure. This year, we've been pretty good. And
of course.
I think what's gonna happen is I think the team is gonna rally around Bo Meester and win one for him. The one last year was for the city of St. Louis. This year it's gonna be a Stanley Cup for Bo Meester. And I really do believe that's going to happen. It's going to rally. Things like that, these are the intangibles that happen to teams that spark up and make it all the way. So I really believe that the team will rally and, come back and do a lot better. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. It's just tightening up fundamentals and playing a full 60 minutes, man. That's what hockey's about. There's 60 minutes of gameplay, and you got to bring it for all of them.
Yep. So looks like we've hit all our topics for the day. We talked about the Renegades game, Battlehawks and Renegades. We talked about some of the rules. We talked about our socials. We talked about the game coming up. We talked about some of the stuff going around Missouri as well. Just want to remind you guys one last time, once you hear the episode, give us some feedback, ask us questions, give us topics to talk about. If you guys just want to hit us up and see what's the word, you can hit us up on Facebook at the St. Louis Fan Hawks Podcast. You can also hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at STL_FanHawks. That's at STL_FanHawks. Send us all your questions. Most importantly, send us your memes because those memes are fucking hilarious.
Yeah. We'd
Please
love to
do
hear
so.
from you guys. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, we're going to put this out and we'll see how everyone does it. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. See you guys.